Hi everyone. We are House of Metis and we've got two special guests today. Slider Cuts, who'll be talking about how we found this house, and Russell Hewes talking about how we, have started to transform it.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to it. Cornish Farmhouse, welcome.
Great to see you. JD,
hi everyone.
Lovely to see you. Russ.
Everyone's jumping on.
Jav Cab 80, lovely to see you. Hello. Hey, we are Mac and Jules, House of Matisse. It's lovely to have you all on and to get to see you.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter. Hopefully you've
Brixton Maisonette, hi.
Hey, you've had a fill of Easter eggs and chocolate, and so we'll be talking a bit about our process of how we are.
Hi, hello, Barry Welsh. I love these names.
Russell, where are you?
Come on! I'm out here in South London.
Yeah, but how come it's so light
like...
in the background of your camera? It's dark here.
Yeah.
I mean, the question is really, what's that bird behind you?
So to everyone who's joined, hello. We'll talk a bit about the birds in a second. But before we get to talk about the big taxidermy crane at the back of us.
It's not our bird, by the way.
It's not.
Guys, I've been telling you how South London is so green. Like, even with the council estate, look at it. This is what I've been trying to get across to you guys.
Do a spin. Are you in a garden?
I'm outside in South London, mate.
Hey,
this is all South London's like this. What? Can you not see me?
Someone kicked you out of their house. You went round to your friend's house.
No, they haven't. I was just passing by to see one of my clients, and he kindly invited me to do the IGTV in his garden.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. You got nice friends. High Coastal Rosebery, our Summerhill home.
Hey, Chantel, Tamara.
Good to see you. Our house we made a home. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining.
Frizzle Dizzle.
Love that.
Number
Frizzle
2, our
Dizzle.
future home. I love these names.
I know. This is so cool.
We should have Slider joining us in a moment. Afro Renovation. Hi.
Afro Renovation. Lovely to see you. So to those that don't know, this is Mac Tuno and I'm Julia, and we're House of Matisse, and we are building a home and a life in East London, and we're going to talk you through a journey with Russell Hewes, our amazing builder, and also Slider Cuts, who will join us shortly, who is our bro-in-law and who kind of sourced the place.
He basically, he sourced the place, aka set us up. So,
Hi, Hannah Violet. So yeah, we're going to talk a bit about the journey and talk a bit about how did we get here? How did we get to kind of creating a home in East London? So right, well, I mean, let's should we ring our brother-in-law?
Where's Slider? Come on, we got to get the person who started this whole thing.
Hi, Lawrence. Hi, Teagles. The Eagle's Nest. No, that
the Eagle's Nest that Eagle's Nest is my friend from work. Slider Cuts is joined. Okay,
hello.
Here we go. One second.
And also, we'll talk a bit about the bird in the background, which we can.
The taxidermy bird.
Hey, Grant. Hey, Vicky Park Home. Good to see you guys. We saw them today when we was grabbing coffee.
Oh, look, Cuzzy.
So
Rudy DJ.
Hey, Rudy.
Mark, are you going to request to join the call?
I think Mark doesn't know how to work Insta.
Yeah, he's a novice.
Hey, Coco Design. Good to see you. Yeah.
Vicky Park Home. We actually bumped into Vicky Park Home in London Fields today.
Yeah, it was
amazing.
really lovely, and it was like the bright sunny day, and we were just talking all things how they created their amazing home in East London. So we'll have to get you on an Insta. Nanaya, good to see you. John Toms. The ledge that is. John Toms is an amazing singer.
Look at this.
Hey, Slider.
Superstar has arrived. It's okay. We'll just. You
want to be fashionably late, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
You think you're hot.
Hi, MT5, Tally Cuts, Rock Review, Addy.
Julia, introduce everyone on the calls. Everyone can have a
Well, Mark, as soon as you joined, it just spiked about 20, 30 people. Is that how you're going on, yeah? Got that gravitational pull.
It's lovely to see everyone who's joining. So we're just going to do a quick round of introductions. This is Mac Tuno. I'm Julia. This is Russell Hewes. and this is our brand-new Slider Cuts, and we are going to talk all things property, reno, how to build a life, how to build a home,
property investment,
financing, all that good stuff. And we're going to try and be honest and open as possible. If you have any questions, we've got some questions that some people sent in to us before, so we'll make sure we answer them today. Yeah. And if you have any more questions, just type them through and we will happily talk to you about all things renovation life.
That's it.
So I want to take us back to the beginning, okay? And as you know, well, some of you may not know, Slider is my brother-in-law, so Metin's brother-in-law. So Mac has a sister called Laquena. You can check out artwork. She's an incredible artist, and Slider is married to Laquena.
We basically let him in the family.
We let him in the family. we
he
thought,
passed the test. He passed the test.
This guy, Slider, he slid into our hearts and into our family. And basically, Slider's got a great eye for detail because he is an incredible artist himself, creating hair and making sure hairlines stay the same, intact. giving guys their dreams back. That's what Slider does. Slider makes dreams happen. So
he decided to help us make our dream happen.
And it wasn't his hairline or my hairline.
And we're not quite sure if he was, I don't know, if he's made a dream or a nightmare happen. Let's hand over to Slider in a moment. But about 9 months ago, we were looking for a house in East London.
Yeah.
In a certain price sweet spot.
Yeah, price bracket.
And Slider texted us and said, "Oh, have you seen this house on this road?" And basically everybody, the house that we're working on now was recommended by Slider. He thinks we're on here to talk to him. We're actually on here to shame him. What were you thinking?
What are you thinking giving us this home?
It was advice. I said, check it out. Just check it out.
Check it out. Check it out.
What did you see in it?
It was a good price. It was a nice street. So even before I told you about it, I went onto the street myself. Me and my son went there. Me and Michaela went there. And we walked down the street. And I was like, oh, I think they would actually like this street. And it was like end of terrace as well, which means you had that little, that semi-detached.
Yeah.
And I just thought, right, it looks like a big house and good space, you know, and then in the right location, somewhere that would, you know, suit where you wanted to be. So that's what I saw.
Okay. Did you check out the joists in the house?
Did you check out the bottom beams that we discovered?
I tried to, but, you know, I got done for trespassing.
You put Michaela over there. So that's the kind of story of how we found the place. It was a text from Slider, and we went to check it out. But at the time, the owner was actually vulnerable, so we couldn't see it. So we had to look at it through
WhatsApp and through Zoom and through some videos. So we never actually got to see the inside before we made an offer, which some people may say is slightly risky or crazy.
But the other big part of this was, and I thought it's probably the first thing I thought we could talk about, is Slider had talked to us about don't sell the flat you're in, but try to find somewhere in the right price point where you can invest in another property and keep it. We wanted to talk a bit about this because it's all about property investment, and it's about retaining properties that you have rather than selling them. It's about the property market in London, and basically Slider's been a massive help to us in this process around how you do that and how you do it well. I don't think he's got an official accreditation in this area in the same way he doesn't have an official accreditation around finding houses. But Mark, can you tell us a bit about, I don't know, your philosophy around when you have a house, not trying to sell it, and what does it actually mean to invest in another property, and how do you do that? I mean, I know that's a lot of detail, but the floor is yours.
Do you know what it was? At first, he was looking at prices of houses which were a lot higher, which meant that which meant they had to sell the property they were in, which I wasn't happy about. Like, I remember speaking to him about it once, but obviously people make their own decisions, so you can't be pressing, you know. And I remember when he first heard it, he was kind of like, let me see if I can make it work. And he did. He went and crunched numbers. He went and spoke to the accountant, spoke to the estate agent, and he was like, nah, do you know what? It just doesn't work in it, so we're just going to sell. And I remember being like, oh, goodness me, don't sell. And my whole thing around selling is because you don't sell, because if you're renting out a property, if you've got a good location, which his other property was in a very good location, which would mean you'd never struggle to rent it out. it meant that you could have someone in your property paying off your mortgage for life, which means every month someone's just giving you a savings, basically. You know, over 25 years, whatever your house is valued at, whether it's 200,000 or 500,000, whatever the case is, over 25 years, you're going to make that money as long as you have someone in there and you got a good location. So I just kind of thought he was throwing away this money by selling his property to go get a more expensive property. So I was just trying to say, listen, get something which is slightly cheaper, keep your other property, rent that out, and let those people pay off that mortgage. And then even, and if you're getting a bit of a profit, it will also help towards your mortgage, which you're getting right now. So I just got this kind of philosophy that, like, if you don't have to, don't sell. Because, and honestly, and the other thing as well is, you know, we go into these things about businesses and passing on your children this and passing on that. I think the best thing you can pass your children more than a business is just a house. Because I've got a business, but my son might not care about barbering. Or he might just not have the mindset to keep that business going, you know, because it's not as simple as just go in there and run it. But a house is self-explanatory in the sense of you rent it out, you fix up things which needs fixing when it comes, and you pay your mortgage. Or if there's no mortgage on it, which you hopefully will be the case in 25 years, then they just kind of like rent, fix up things, get money. So I just kind of thought this is kind of almost one of the best things you can pass to your children.
Yeah, you're right, Mark. And there's something here where you're talking about kind of like, you don't know what your children are going to go on to do, what they might want to be, but you're allowing them, in a sense, you're giving them that freedom to pursue whatever it may be that they want to do in life, but knowing that ultimately they have a roof over their head, a really incredible gift, right?
Yeah.
But I suppose the challenge is around, this is interesting, Milas Road E11, sorry if I said that wrong. I love this in theory, just stuck how I would get another mortgage.
Oh, get another mortgage. So what you do is, so it's dependent on your situation, to be very honest. So if you've got equity in your property, so if you've got a property you bought in the last, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago, the way the market's been going over the last 10 years, maybe except for in the last year, which had a bit of a blip, but it's still continuing anyway. Your property has, especially if it's in London, has gone up in value by a certain amount. So you could have bought the property for 300,000 and it's likely it might be worth, 340 now or 350, or if you're in a really peak area, like a developing area, that might be 400. So I got a property 10 years ago, which I sold now. I didn't want to sell it, but I had to, in Dalston, and I basically doubled up in price in about 6-7 years. It doubled up in price. So basically with that equity, you could, instead of you selling it and getting that money, you could go to the bank and say, actually, my house is worth, 400,000 now. I owe to you guys 250,000 now. Is it possible I could borrow 100,000 out of the equity? Because they're like, so the bank will come and say, okay, let's go do a valuation. Okay, yeah, your house is worth 400,000 right now. Great. Let's look at your expenses and all that stuff there and see that, can you afford to make the extra payments? And if that passes, then they say, okay, cool, we'll borrow you the 100,000. So now you're gonna have a mortgage with us of 350,000, because they're seeing it as it's secure. Because they're seeing it as if you miss payments, no matter the issue, they can sell it for 400,000 on the market and get their money back. So the bank see it as secure money. Yeah. And that's how you kind of take money out of one property and then you use that as a deposit onto your next property. So you got £100,000. You might say, okay, I'm going to put £80,000 down, £5,000 for solicitors' fees, and £15,000 to fix up the property. And that goes down to my next property, which I'm going to be living in. And then the old property, you can start renting it out. So that's kind of like a basis of how you do it. It doesn't always work. You have to, the calculations have to make sense.
Do you know what's important? Do you know what's important about this conversation is that, so when we had a conversation with Mark about this, so sometimes you go to family, like a family do, you're hanging out, you're talking, you've just eaten a nice, I don't know, roast dinner or something, or jollof rice, whatever it might be, and you're chilling, and then a family member starts talking about something they're doing. We never knew about this.
No.
So when Mark started sharing this, we're like, oh, okay, let me go and investigate and talk to different mortgage providers and figure out how we can make this happen. But for us, it was really powerful about how knowledge is shared in community and in family, that if you don't encounter or interact with someone who's doing that, then you don't know about it. There's another question here. It says interest only or repayment buy-to-let mortgage.
Do you know what? It's really down to you. I'm a fan of repayment. I know a lot of people aren't, but I just like the idea of, if someone stays in that house every month, I own an extra bit of the house, as to why I always myself want to do repayments, so that in 10, let's say in 15 years, I own over half of that. And it even might be more than that. The property value might have even gone up. So when people do interest only, if you have to, because you're in a situation where it's like, well, I can't afford it and I've got all these expenses, then cool, do your interest only. But if you can afford to do repayments, then I always think to people, why don't you just do repayments? That's my.
I'm going to counteract that, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to.
So can you also? I realise there's jargon we're talking here. Can you explain repayments and interest only? What we mean by that for anyone listening?
Okay, so yeah,
someone thinking I want to buy a house.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So basically, you got repayments and interest. Interest only means that on every month, the bank put on an interest to what you owe them for the loan you've taken out of, to buy that house. Interest only will mean that you're only going to pay back the interest, but the amount you've taken out from them is still outstanding. So if you borrow £100 from the bank and they say every month the interest is going to be £10, if you do interest only, every month you're going to pay £10 and still owe them £100 in 10 years, as example, because you're only paying the interest. If you do repayments, what they're saying is you're going to pay the £10 interest and maybe £1 every month off the £100 as well. So over time, you're slowly paying off the debt. Whereas in interest only, when you come to the end of the term, they expect you to then say, okay, you paid off all your interest. Now we want the £100.
The one thing I would say about interest, which is interesting, no pun intended, interest is interesting, is about cash flow. And I think one of the things, by the way, none of us on this call are financial advisors. I just want to caveat that.
We're just community. We're just community sharing money.
Russell's like, I'm not a financial advisor. Disclaimer. Slider, let's put a huge disclaimer out there.
I'm not a financial advisor.
We're just kind of working our way through this and learning as we go along. So we just want to pass kind of our kind of experiences on. But please go and seek professional financial advice for your situation. The one thing about interest is when you need more cash flow, and when you, as Slider said, when you have maybe other expenses, then actually interest might work for you. Say you're paying fees for something, or you've got high outgoings. It's okay also for a season or two to kind of use, or for a few years to use interest if you need that cash flow. So flex to what you might need. Then a few years you might need to just pay interest only because you want lower monthly bills because you've got high expenses coming out. But then there might be a season where you've got less expenses coming out. You're like, what, I can do repayments now. So it's about also understanding what season you're in and what your financial situation is, and having that financial broker or an advisor who can say, okay, well, this is a new job you've got. Maybe you have higher salary, so actually you can afford to do repayments versus interest. So it will flex to whatever season that you're in.
Russell, you're quiet in the garden there. What's your
I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
Spit some knowledge, Russ. I mean, you come across so many properties. You can build a house.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on what Mark said, I think that, and what you guys are saying, I think obviously it depends on your financial situation and whether you've got the capital, the deposit to essentially put down on the property. I noticed one of the questions was, is now a good time to purchase a property for a first-time buyer? I think it would obviously depend on whether you've got a savings of a deposit. If you did, now is a good time because you've got some of the lowest interest that you'll ever get, in our lifetime and maybe many lifetimes to come. With regards to that, because they're offering 1 to 3% mortgages for 30 to 40 years fixed rate. That's like, based on the research I've done, that's unheard of. And the other thing to touch on is there's loads of different types of mortgages, and like you guys are saying, and like Mark's saying, it really depends on your situation, whether you're going to be developing the property. Is it an investment? Is it your first time you're moving into your family? There's so many different variables, and that's why I think it's important to obviously speak to family, but more importantly, to speak to someone who really knows this stuff inside out to give you the advice on your financial situation. But yeah, I think that's my 2 pence on it.
Yeah, I think
Adebayo Inspires says there's no right or wrong here.
Yeah.
It all depends on your financial blueprint. If you're collating a host of properties, interest only isn't a bad shout. The purchase prices are over 250k. But I suppose it's what we're speaking about, isn't it? It's about thinking about your situation and going to talk to someone about it. But I know for us, that's a really important bit, because we were triggered to look at property investment from a family conversation.
Yeah.
But then what you do is you go away to an expert and you say, listen, I've heard this. How does this work out? Tell me more.
Yeah.
I think Mark's right as well. If you own a property right now, you definitely, unless you're really stretching to get a much bigger property, that I think you should definitely try to keep it as an investment, you know, for the future and for your family, if possible. Like, it's definitely something, you know, everything he said I completely agree with, and it's something that you guys have done on your own journey. You know, managing to keep hold. Obviously, it's probably been a financial stress on your own personal finances, but if you can make it work where possible, especially in a place like London, where, you know, houses are only going to go up even during the worst of depressions, you know, for a short while, it's definitely worth always keeping your money invested in property. I would say or one of the main vehicles.
It's a relatively stable, or like in terms of risk, right, and financial risk, properties are relatively, I say relatively because life happens and stuff happens and property values go down, but relatively stable, like compared to stocks and shares or things that are have higher risk value. So I love, Russell, there's a man just walking by.
Yeah, sorry, it's my client slash friend, he's doing gardening in the dark. So
the funny thing about this is, the reason why we're all on a call together is so Mark advised us to buy this tragedy of a property,
the ugliest house on the nicest
but then
road.
at that point, we'd made an offer, and then we were like, well, we need to find a builder. So interestingly, the connection here is that Mark had used Russell previously and recommended him to us. So that's the other connection that's happening here. It's like a kind of love triangle. It's like a builder's love property investment triangle.
You should really pay me for that. You know why you should pay me for that as well? Because I went through so many trash builders, and I've lost tens of thousands on builders that bumped me before I got to Russell. So you skip that whole process. So really, you should be paying me for that.
I agree, Mark. I keep telling them all the time they should give you a little commission.
Listen, Mark, we're gonna
Max
be a good
adjusting his collar over there.
Don't worry. Listen, the kids are, listen, we're the godparents to your children. So listen, they're under our Mikasa Sukasa. The rooms are prepared for your kids already in the new
there's
build.
a games
There's already
room.
a games room for them. You know how.
Cool.
Finder's fee. Chantel said finder's fee. Don't worry, we'll raise the kids. I'll make them jollof. I'll make them kalawale. It's okay. Don't worry, they'll be taken care of.
Milas Road E11 said, did you intend to spend as much on the refurb or do this much work? No.
No.
I can speak on this.
Please,
let me unfold the story a little bit. So I was doing, the guy who does my marketing, is a very good friend of mine, and he kept telling me about Slider, and obviously I hadn't come across his page. I started watching it, and it was really inspiring to see, you know, another black barber like doing his thing. Sorry, another black barber. I wasn't a barber, but like really doing his thing and inspiring people and just seeing his energy. And I was really like, right, okay, there's someone else working hard and really trying to, you know, inspire young people, inspire people in his area. And anyway, basically said, why don't you get in touch? He's looking to do some work. I've never done work in North London. I'm a South London boy through and through. And anyway, we reached out to Mark, and Mark said, look, I've got this project. Do you want to come out and have a look? And at first I was looking at the distance and I was like, wow, you know, and it's something that I've spoken to Mark about now, and something he always talks about in his videos, you know, coming out your comfort zone and taking risks in your own business. And it's something that I definitely I admire Mark a lot for, you know, everything he says in his barbershops and the success that you see that he's achieving now is due to the hard work that he puts in. And had I not taken that opportunity, this is a prime example for anyone watching this, is that, you know, I would have never met Mac and Jules and got, you know, onto this project. And I'll come to answer the question, which is, did they intend to spend as much on the refurb or did this much work? The answer is no. They had a set budget, and the budget has been blown out the water. I mean, it's coming almost more than double the initial thing. Sorry guys, I hope you don't mind me.
But can I just say, so that basically the finder's fee that we were going to pay Slider is got eaten.
So Russell owes me a finder's fee, okay?
Russell owes you a finder's fee. Russell now owes you, Slider.
Mark, you know I got you. And
yeah, no, it all went on. Basically, our budget went on remedial works.
Putting up steels to keep the house together.
Basically, to stop it from falling down.
Yeah, that's what.
And then now we've had to find budget to actually build a house to live in.
Yes.
So, but I mean, this is life. I mean, you walk into lots of things in life, you just don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I think the only decision I've ever made where I walked in, I knew what I was expecting, and I've been very happy, is marriage.
Hey, oh what? Guy. Guy. So, okay, we've got some questions from that was sent in to us ahead of today.
This is one for Russell, actually.
Yes, one for Russell.
It says, do contractors offer payment plans? That's a really interesting one, actually. So do contractors offer payment plans?
So we offer payment plans in terms of the overall job. We'll break down the job into a set payment plan until the job, from start to finish. For example, we do, for most of our jobs, we do 5% deposit to hold the date. Then we do 20 to 25% deposit 1 day before the job starts, which allows us to buy the materials and give us the confidence of cash flow to run the job. And then we'll break down whatever the length of the project into 20% increments every fortnight. So, I mean, from that point of view, we do payment plans. But in terms of like an actual loan payment plan where you offset, say the job's 50K, and then you pay me at a later point when the project's finished. No, it's something I'm looking into, but I'd need to get financial advice on that. I'm not sure there's many builders that you find that would be able to essentially fund your project.
And it sounds like every builder will have a different way of doing it, right? It could be that they have a different upfront term, or they might have...
Oh yeah. So there's the most common way is based on valuation. So if you've got smaller projects, this is still a lot of money to some people, and I recognize that a lot. Some people will be up to 5K or to 10K. They'll do 50-50, and the bigger contractors would probably do something like that. But the biggest conundrum for a builder in my own journey to building this business is cash flow. All it takes is one person not to pay something, and then you're not paying the guys, and you're taking money from one job, taking money from Mark's job to fund your job, and then Mark's getting upset because so it can cause all types of difficulties. So that's why I use the methodology that I've sort of created. But the most common practice is to essentially do valuation. So like when the first fix electrics is done, you get that certain amount, and plumbing, flooring. But as I said, if for whatever reason the builder suddenly needs money, you might find that your 20 grand floor has been put down while there's still loads of builders traipsing through around, and it's not been protected, and you have to pay up because you've agreed on valuation. So some of the things that you want to make sure that you get right before going into a contract.
Handy advice. Yeah. We've got a question through from Chantel saying, how did you manage any anxiety and stress when you knew the budget needed to be increased? How do we manage that? Well, we firstly prayed. Lord, we fasted for 10 days.
We've only just given up the fast.
We lost a few pounds for Easter, No, I mean, honestly, I think we had to just look at our.
We have this strong. Actually, we use this phrase with Russell and Jimmy, who's one of Russell's builders, where basically, what can we do? We just have to fix it. So we have to find a solution. So we always say, like, be solution focused. So we literally, basically, worrying won't do anything.
Yes.
Being anxious won't do anything. So we have to find a way. So we start to try and pull on any lever we have. So it could be, is there a family member who could lend us money? Is there a different way of phasing the build to put more cost later on when we know we have money coming in? Can we find? So we basically go into solution mode. In our house, we'll literally end up with Post-its and paper. We'll be plotting out scenario planning. Scenario 1, ideal. Scenario 2, scenario 3. What are the different eventualities? And what's the highest probability? And we kind of, you know, plan it out and then see what happens. And normally you find that there's a way to get money from somewhere. I mean, Slider knows a lot about this because the types of projects he's done. He has funded some serious projects where, I mean, he's had to be solution focused. I know that.
Tell us about your solution focused journey, Slider.
Sometimes you just got to realize you have no time to think about the woes of the project. But it's kind of like, to get through this project, you just got to think about what can I do to get through the project. So, you know, before Russell came, when I was doing my barbershop, you know, at first it was supposed to cost £70,000 to fix up. And well, it cost £70,000, but then the builders took the full money and ran off. So then there was still kind of like, you know, all this stuff needed doing, and I had borrowed that money. So it's not like, oh, you know, that just came out my savings. It was like, right, they've left now, and you know, the roof is still leaking. This is not done. That's not done.
What are the names so we can make sure people on
the guy flew off to Greece. He went to Cyprus or Greece or something like that, right?
So
then it was kind of
them.
Mark, can I interject here? So how did you find these builders? Like, what was the process you followed for the first set of builders that you had?
You know what it was? I went on to findabuilder.com.
Yeah.
And the reason why I went there is because initially I was going to do a very cheap fit out because I didn't have the money, and because it wasn't any money I had, I didn't have a budget, because it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to budget, you know, doing a quick fit out of like 20 to 30,000 pounds of money I'm going to borrow.
Okay.
But as the project was going on, it's kind of like, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. So it's like, okay, I need to find more money. So it wasn't a budget. I didn't have a budget of 70,000. It was of 20 to 30,000 of money I was borrowing people or banks or whatever it was. Oh, we need another 10,000 pounds, 5,000 pounds. Oh, this has gone wrong. The roof is totally this and that and this and all these different things, right? So it's like, right, I'm in it now. I have to keep finding this money. So it gets to the point of like 70,000 around that, and then suddenly the things which they're supposed to do, they haven't done it all, and then they just literally disappear. Then I find out one of the guys has gone back to Greece, or the main guy. So then I had to get someone else in to do a basic fix up, which cost me £30,000, which was more money that I borrowed.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
And then I got Russell to come in.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, yeah, so I had to do that, and there were still things which were still slightly wrong with some of the things they've done as well. Like, you know, initially we changed the whole roof, but the roof was still leaking, but it was a new roof. Then we got a new builder in who changed the roof, and then the roof was still leaking. But the person who recommended, then I got into a little argument with the person who recommended the roofer, because I was like, you know, you hired this roofer. And he just saying to me, look, I'm not taking a cost because it's not my guys. But I'm like, but I asked you, you were on the project, and you hired this worker. And he's just like, look, we'll do a quick thing and whatever. So when we finally got to you guys, it was kind of like, look, I need to get this place to the place which I wanted it in the beginning. So then I had to spend extra money with Russell, which was more borrowed money, to get it to the place it needs to be. So yes, it's almost like I started off with zero, and with a barbershop project, it cost about over £200,000.
Gosh.
Wow.
You know,
Mark, how did you stay?
I didn't even realise it was that bad, man. Jesus.
Mark, how did you stay positive during all of that?
Yeah.
Because how did you stay
It's
positive?
like 3 times a charm.
I just thought, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, you know, I'm going to let the project crash. I'm in it now, so it's just kind of like, I kind of like put things in departments where it's like, okay, I'm not going to let this affect my home life. I'm not going to let this affect this. But in my head, I'm like, and I spoke to you about this today. I said, that point in my life, I realized I had so much pressure because I ran out of space, because I was going through a phase when I forgot everything. I couldn't remember anything. Like, I kept forgetting what I was going to say in sentences I was stopping. And I remember at the time being like, I was worried about what was going on with my mind, because I was like, I'm having a conversation. I'm like, so Martina, when we go to the, and I'm like, what was I go to the where? I was like, what was I going to say? And this was happening all the time, you know? Yeah. So as much as I was just focusing on what needed to be done,
Can,
it was still taking a toll on me.
Can I give someone just said, what due diligence should you do? So this is a process that I give all of my customers, whether they're going to use me or not, because I'm starting to get conscious that I won't be able to service every single customer that comes my way, especially if you're all in North London. Just putting it out there. But, you know, I think, Mark, one of the things I wish I'd met you before this had happened, but, you know, the most important thing is understanding what your project is about and what it is that you're hoping to achieve. And, you know, like in the beginning, if you had set out, I always say that if you're hiring architects, or whether you're going to be project managing or hiring someone like ourselves to project manage, you really need to understand what it is that you want to do to the build. So having a schedule of works. So every time I go to a property, doesn't matter if they've got an architect involved, or, you know, with Slider, or even you, Jules, or Metis, you know, I really make sure that in your own words, you're very clear before I come what you're hoping to achieve and what you're hoping to expect. Then once I come to the visit, or you have another builder come to the visit, you know, that's when you're really getting the expertise or experience you hope, and that they're giving you a way to essentially break down all these line items into a schedule, which is called a schedule of works. At that point, when you have that, you can then go out to get different quotes. Because if you just have different builders coming round without being able to identify, they all have their own perception of what you're asking for. You know, I want my bathroom like this. I want my bathroom transformed. You know, it's not, you know, you need to be able to break it down. I want a new bath. I want tiling on the floor. I want 6 spotlights. I want to have new taps. You know, I want a new window. I want a skylight put in. And then when you have the schedule of works, you can then really ask the builders to all put a price to that individually. Otherwise, you know, like as you guys know, I break my prices down individually, almost too much, like every spotlight, every single item. And so if you have a schedule of works, then that way you are going to be able to put line item by line item and be able to pick the builder. And sometimes it might be on price, sometimes it might be on quality, sometimes it might be on relationship. But I think that's one of the first due diligences I would, if that's a word, that I would carry out. And had I known Mark 6 months earlier, wow.
Is it also fair to say that if something is very, very, very cheap, then there's a problem? So what I've recognized is I've used builders in the past where they're the cheapest, but they're running around and I can tell that they're trying to squeeze my job in because they're trying to do juggling 5 jobs to make it work. And so for me, there's something about if they're very, 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 very cheap, then there's probably a reason why they're so cheap. Because they've cut their margins so way thin.
Yeah, unfortunately in our industry, before you have a reputation, you know, and I had this problem, you know, I haven't always had this reputation that I had. I had to, initially I was a successful electrician and I created successful electrical company. So I had the fundamentals of running a business, but still I was like, to win a job like yours, I'd need to, you know, I'd need to make sure that my price was the lowest. So I'm getting involved in a race to the bottom. And if every single person is involved in a race to the bottom, you know, something has to give. So what are they giving? You know, corners are getting cut. And depending on how someone feels about their own work, is it about the money? Why are they doing this job? Like, you know, and Mark has obviously experienced that first hand, as have I, and as have you guys, you know, from previous work. And I'm sure every other person on this video who watches this, you know, I think it's just something that's in the industry that unfortunately is inherent, which is like, you know, if I haven't got enough work for my now 26 guys, but imagine back then 5 guys, I need to get work for them. So what am I going to do to get that work? I might sacrifice getting my profit to do that. And that's something I've always done to grow this reputation. This hasn't just happened overnight. You know, I've sacrificed a lot personally, as Mark has, like, you know, to be able to get the quality and get the standards to where I want. And I think other builders, unfortunately, they'll just cut corners. Just be like, well, you're not, you know, I'm just going to hide that tile, that broken thing there, or I'm not going to fix your roof. You know, you paid me for the roof. You know, Mark, it's done. Like, I'm in Cyprus by the time it rains 2 weeks later.
It was months later.
Yeah.
That's the issue. It was summer when it was done. It didn't rain for about 4 or 5 months. I didn't even know until months later.
And that's unfortunately, and it's not always that is the case. Sometimes it's, you know, there are other things. You know, I've made mistakes. I've had to go back to jobs. It's not always something that's consciously done, but I think it's
There's a
I was going to say there's a question here, and it's an interesting one, because I know that I'm sure this is not just for like Mark, but for all of us, probably even those like tuning in. Like, how did you, Mark, and even Russell, in points of high stress, how do you get rid of foggy brain? So that's what someone asked. Yeah,
just me, Faye said, Mark, how did you get over your foggy brain when you were under that high stress?
I didn't. I had to get through the situation. I had to wait until I only noticed it properly. I knew there was an issue at the time, but I remember as I started getting through things, and it's kind of like, okay, the business is now starting to get to a place. Because basically what was happening was I had more money going out every month for about 3 years than coming in. So as I started getting closer to the mark of where it's kind of like I'm getting to zero, where we can get, things just started loosening up. So just as things were just going through, so it wasn't like, you know, in that period I'd done anything. I just plowed on. It was exactly the same thing. And I noticed that I thought I started having a more breathing space. So yeah, I can't give any real advice. Get through.
It's plowing through. Russell.
I've done a lot of what Mark has done, and it definitely, perseverance was my best friend for the first 3 years, 100%. But I remember a time, and you know, I've recognized it in other people. You can see it instantly. I'm sure Mark can, you know, if you see that face on someone, you know what it is. And for me, I think sometimes, you know, you just need to actually take a pause, because what's happening is you have no space. You have no space to even talk to your loved ones, because you've got all these problems going on. And, you know, one of the things I learned, I took a break, and it seemed like the craziest thing to do at that moment, you know, take a break, you know, you're under pressure, you've got bills to pay, you've got money coming out left, right and center. But, you know, I basically realized that I needed to level up, like me, you know, the business was leveling up faster than I could. And I needed, you know, at this moment, the business could have failed, but I had to take a moment, take some space and level up myself. And I think sometimes, you know, you just need to take a moment to sort of release a bit of pressure, whether it be an hour or like just take some breathing space, you know, try to get some headspace if you're going through this foggy moment, and then re-energize it and refocus and be like, right, okay, I'm back. I need to do that.
And you know what I realized about what you guys are saying is interesting. We're talking about kind of renovating, buying properties, financing. And actually a lot of this is also just about life. I think a lot of what we're talking about doesn't just apply to finding a home or, you know, or whatever it is. Actually, a lot of this happens at work, just general work, you know, like living life, problems that come into life. Taking a pause is so powerful. Yeah, definitely. I find it's, you know, you can apply it to properties, but you can also apply it to just...
Yeah, and also being sort of honest and vulnerable when you're struggling. So again, it's the same way that with, you know, it's really important you have people that you can just say, like, things are actually hard.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's always kind of fronting in some way. I think sometimes we're taught to disguise, we made a decision and maybe it's not going the way we thought it would, but we try and cover up our tracks. But actually, it's about having friends and loved ones. You can say, actually, I'm struggling right now. I don't know how to get out of this, or I made this decision and I'm a bit lost. There's lots of times I've texted Mark and said to I've just said to like, just even just to have that like loved one where you're just sending a message and just saying, this is not exactly panning out the way I thought it would. Because everyone can always try and spin it. Every great entrepreneur, for example, they always look back and they say, these were the moves I made. You never made a move.
No.
You basically threw things at the wall.
And something stuck.
A couple of things stuck, and now you've grown that, and then you're now saying that you...
Listen, the thing, the pancake that sticks to the wall, you say, that's the ingredients I used to make it stick to the wall. No, love, you just put some eggs and flour in, it just happened to stick.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I've got those messages from him, right? And I felt at times, I've got this feeling from back to the one, I'm like, he's really annoyed that I recommended him the property. He's not directly saying it, but I can sense his annoyance, right? But you know what, I think to myself, yes, there's problems with the property, but some of the things you're doing on the property, is luxury, not necessity.
Well, no, it's true. No, it's true. That is a really good point. And
That's a fair point.
so you could say it's like, have we brought stress on ourselves?
You could also say that.
But isn't that the stress of growth? It's almost
When
like,
you're trying to grow, you're trying to.
so you could say, well, I've got something. I'm just going to kick back and sit on what I have. And as soon as you say, I want to grow something, you're going to put yourself under stress. And that's the challenge and problem we had. You could say that we chose to put ourselves under more stress, couldn't you?
Yeah, but then look at the journey you guys are on. You've created,
this is it.
Look at what you guys are creating. I think you're inspiring loads of people who normally be filled with anxiety, and they must be looking at your page thinking, bro, these guys are making it look easy. Dancing around on site, you know what I mean? Making videos every day.
That's just because Jimmy is a master. You happen to have a great team. You fill us with confidence, so we can dance around on site and make little videos for Insta. Like that's what we're trying to press into, the positivity, pressing into, as you're saying, the growth mindset. I just want to say, I'm aware we did say we have some questions that our audience have sent in questions. So we're going to do a quick fire round of these questions to both Russell and to Slider. All right. So question from I don't know actually have the name of who it was, but it said, did the house pass through conveyancing? Isn't that
yes, us. No, okay. It didn't. There were loads of red flags, but sometimes when you see something, you get too excited, so you try and push it through.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
I raised the red flag, just so you know.
You did raise the red flag. Russell's like, right.
We didn't read it. We were excited.
Floorboards are kind of like wonky, and you could roll a Malteser and chocolate down.
I got a pound out, and I just showed them how the floor was rolling.
It was really bad. All right. How do you? Question for Russell. How do you keep on such good terms with your builder? Well, I mean, we've got Russell on the call now, so I mean, we keep on good terms. How do we keep on good terms with this guy?
We're not actually on good terms.
We're not actually. This is all just a farce. And no, I mean,
openness, transparency.
Exactly. Keeping.
I think it's transparency. Openness is the main thing.
And saying this is what budget we have to work with. What can we do within that? And Russell says this is what you can do. I've also found that with Russell, you give us that options. You say, this is luxury, this is like medium, and this is like what you can get for your basic, range. So there's flex in that, and I think that's the great thing about a good builder will always give you options to work with your budget. Slider, would you agree with that? Would you say that's a mark of keeping on good terms with Russell when you're doing your bit?
Just openness. I had to chase Russell a few times to give him money. He just wouldn't respond to me when I was saying, how much I need to pay you? And he's just kind of like, he's just avoiding me. I was like, why are you avoiding me? I'm trying to pay you your money.
So if anyone listening in, Russell doesn't want money. He just wants to build on.
No, you don't want that.
For me, sorry, quickly, guys, it's clear communication and having a solution-based thinking, I think is really important, which both Mark and Mac and Jules had.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question, I can't remember who said this, is, do you guys work full-time? What are your jobs? It's a good question.
You guys.
We do work. We don't just dance on Instagram.
That's what lunch breaks are for, basically.
We use our lunch breaks. We use our coffee breaks. We run to the build.
And that's partly why we chose to have an Airbnb near the house, so we can run in and run out.
But do you guys work remotely or from a actual office?
We
remotely.
Work remotely.
So COVID has been helpful because the problems we've had with this build, the flexibility of home working helps us.
Yeah.
But if we were like pre-COVID in a world where you're in the office every day, it'll be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So that has taken off a lot of stress.
And okay, final question: top tips from Slider and from Russell. What should we?
Top tips on staying sane in life.
Give us your top tips on staying sane in life.
Know your capacity. Know your capacity. Your capacity isn't based on someone else's capacity. Often I have to tell people this: don't be inspired by what I've done to say, yeah, you can go to that place, because you might not be able to go to that place, or you might be able to go further. It's about knowing your own capacity and just being comfortable in that, because you might be able to do half of what I'm doing, and that might be your breaking point. And I think sometimes TV and social media makes you be like, no, but I'm seeing these guys do it, so now I'm going to do a build like that, and it's kind of like then you get broken because your capacity can't take that. So I just feel like know your capacity and live within that.
Love that, Slider. Wise words. Russ, RH.
RH, for me, I think it's important to have clear goals, you know, like whatever it is you're deciding to do, you know, if you have a clear destination, clear goal, clear purpose, whether it's a project, whether it's, you know, going to the gym. I watch Slider all the time. You know, if you watch his channel, he's always dropping gems on how you can start working out and just taking it step by step. So having clear goals and having positive energy, just waking up in the morning and putting that good music on and just starting your day right.
Love it. I'm feeling the energy. Thank you both so much, and thank you to everyone who sent in questions in advance. Tune into our next Insta. This is the start of our journey. Follow us and kind of let's journey together. Hopefully you guys will come to our supper club when we've got a roof on.
Yay. Have a great rest of your bank holiday Monday, everyone.
Happy Easter, everybody.
All right, cheers. Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
See ya. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining.
Bye. Sorry about the darkness.